Hey everybody, I want you to meet Rick. Hey Rick,
How you doing?
glad you can make it to the channel here and join me. From your t-shirt, I can see you're from Canada.
Oh yeah, from Big Red and White.
Big red and white.
Yeah.
What part of Canada are you from?
I'm from Regina, Saskatchewan. It's just straight north of North Dakota for all those American people.
Who don't know the
Yeah,
geography
don't know Canada.
Don't know Canada?
Yeah.
Is it cold there?
Very cold.
How cold is it right now, do you think?
When I left, it was probably about in the Celsius terms, it was about minus 35 with the wind chill. It was probably about minus 45.
Wow, that's cold.
That's cold.
That's cold.
It's very cold.
I met you here in Cebu.
Yeah.
You watch us on YouTube, which thank you.
You bet. I watch you.
And we met for coffee, and you've been here before. This is not your first rodeo here.
No, this would be trip number 8, I believe.
And when was the first one?
The first trip I made here was back in January of 2011, and that's when I met my wife.
You met your wife.
I met my wife in that time.
So she's Filipina, you're
She's
married.
Filipina, we're married, yep.
And so when did you get married?
I got married about a year later. I made a second trip May of 2011 and came back in December of 2011, and we were married January 17th in 2012.
Wow.
And actually January 17th on this trip we arrived on our wedding date.
Ah, your anniversary. So
Yeah.
the landing was the anniversary gift.
Yes, it was.
So did you meet her like online, a dating site, in person? Explain how you met this
I
nice
didn't.
woman.
I did go on dating sites and I did look around, but I never met anybody. I had a friend back in Regina. He was an old roommate. He retired. He came here. He spent a year or 2 years here. He met someone, got married, they had a child and everything. And I came here with a friend from high school, and he had met someone. So we both traveled here together. He went to meet his lady, and I met Jim, and he kind of showed me the ropes around the Philippines. And before I came, I actually was friends with his wife and a bunch of her friends on Facebook. Never really kind of got into any communication, but when I arrived in Cebu, I said to Christine, I said, "Where's Jonah Lynn?" She says, "I'd like to meet her." And I met her at the mall. We kind of hung out. We went back to Dumaguete. She came down, and we traveled together for 2 weeks. And then we just continued a relationship when I went back to Canada.
Was she the first Filipina that you met in the Philippines? Or did you have other dating options at the time?
Well, there was one or two that I was talking to online, but it never did go anywhere. It wasn't we never got to the meeting part. It was more or less just a communication.
And what attracted you to her?
I think the attraction, it was an attraction to the Philippines in general before. My friend Rick and I were talking about it. And of course, every foreigner, or no, I guess I shouldn't say every foreigner, but some foreigners, they get to the point where Western women and the dating scene there just wasn't working.
And this is back in 2006.
This was before 2011. So back then we had talked about it. He had just gotten out of a bad relationship of 10 years, and he had been married before that. I was never married, but I've had a few relationships during the last few years prior to coming here that didn't, I don't know, they just didn't work out very well.
I can relate to that.
And yeah, no doubt. So we both decided, you know what do we got to lose? I mean, we actually booked flights kind of like last minute. It was like maybe 6 weeks before, and paid an outrageous price for tickets. Came here and just said, you know what, let's see what happens.
So the boots on the ground scenario, that worked well for you. It was so much better to meet in person than, the online back and forth.
It was. because she's right there in front of me, and we could get that communication started. Communication online is okay, but it's not like face to face.
No,
It doesn't.
I agree with you. It's better after you've met them, and what you're doing is continuing the relationship online. Talking to each other.
Exactly.
But that initial chemistry, physical attraction, mental attraction, emotional attraction, you have to do that in person.
You do, 100%. Because when a Filipina sees a foreigner, I think the biggest thing that they look for is trust. Because I think a lot of them, being with other Filipino men, they lose that trust, because a lot of them, they kind of go from one girlfriend to another girlfriend to another girlfriend, right? So if they can find maybe a foreigner that's trustworthy, that's what they want.
So they're looking for trust. I agree with
Yep.
that. They're looking for someone trustworthy,
Stability.
dependable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stability.
And so how long were you on a relationship where you weren't together? You met and then you went back.
Yeah, I went back to Canada after a couple weeks. We exchanged Yahoos, so that's how we communicated, was through Yahoo Messenger.
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, it was Yahoo
Yahoo
Messenger,
Messenger.
long time ago.
Yeah.
There was no Facebook or any of that. There was Facebook, but it wasn't as advanced as it is now. And Jim had told me that, if you're going to continue a relationship with Jonah Lynn, you're going to have to provide documentation if and when it gets to, if you get married or whatever, and if you
ever want to take her back to
take
your
her
home
back
country.
to the home country, you need that proof of a relationship, right? So we continued. I actually came back here on a second trip back in May of the same year, spent another 10 days here, went back to Canada, and then just continued online after that.
So after you met her, and you went back to Canada, was your intention to marry her and take her back? Or were you still
I didn't
unsure?
have the intention of getting married at that time. It was going through that online relationship to see, where it was going to go. I mean, it's like anything, you got to give a bit of time before you find out who you're with, and if you're compatible, right? And it wasn't until about October, the end of October, I felt, I really want to spend some quality time with a good person. And I asked her to marry me. It was that 6 months from May till about the end of October that I took to, let's see where it's going to go.
So she said yes when you
And
asked
she
her.
did, yes, she did.
Did she? Was she?
Yeah.
I'm going to assume she's very happy that you
Yes, she was.
Yes.
She had actually, I think she felt kind of shocked.
shocked about
Yeah,
that.
she was shocked.
So
No.
I know people are going to ask why she is not camera with us. She's very shy.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to be on the video with us. She's having coffee, watching our stuff. Very
Yeah.
beautiful young lady. And I think you're a very lucky man there. Now, once you decided you're going to get married, you came here to the Philippines and got married?
Yes. I had to plan a little longer trip because of the marriage process. For Canada, we had to fly to Manila and go to the Canadian Embassy to get paperwork done. And once you file the paperwork in her hometown of Himalalod, there's a 2-week grace period that they want you to stay in the country for, and then pick your date. And so I think it was like about a 6 or 7 week trip that first time.
And then you got married here. And
Got married here by a justice of the peace, or a judge, I guess it would be, in Tayasan, in Negros.
And then at that point, you had to go back because you're still working. You don't have a pension or anything going yet. You weren't prepared to retire and live here.
No,
at that time.
no. At that time, I was 46 at the time. So, I mean, I was still working, still with the company, Signal Industries, and just was continuing my life as normal.
So the two of you decided you're going to try to get her into Canada.
Yeah. After the marriage, I asked her if that's what she wanted, and she said yes. and then we started the paperwork process, which is at
Tedious
that time
best.
quite an ordeal, because it was actually between the time where you actually did the paperwork all by hand, and then they were switching it to online. So it was that conversion period back between 2012 of February, March, and April of 2012. And it was funny because we had gotten all our paperwork together. I put it in a package. The whole package weighed 15 pounds in this binder. I sent it in. They actually sent it back to me a week later, said they refused it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what?
Why?
So I called in sick to work. I stayed home, and I called Immigration Canada 4 times, and I think that has to be a record to actually get through to talk to anyone in Immigration Canada 4 times in one day. But I did get what the last lady said, give me your email, I'm going to send you, and you print this off, and then you send your package back. So I gave her my email. She sent me this copy of a paper saying that it was okay the way I sent the package in, and then I sent it back.
Oh, okay. So it was the how you sent it, maybe.
Well,
or the process.
I think they wanted it the new way, all online, and we had written everything out all by hand. Like, it was all written, everything.
Did you have like copies of emails that you sent back and forth?
I actually had, I went and I printed off all our Yahoo Messengers conversations.
Yeah.
I bet you I had over 6 inches of papers. So I asked immigration, I says, how much do I got to put into this package, right? And she says, I says, because I got tons of paperwork. She says, just put some in from each month, not every conversation, and it should be fine. Just so there was a sequence of the dates.
So,
But I mean, I could have choked them with paperwork like you wouldn't believe.
so once it was approved, from start to finish, how long did that take?
Actually, back then, the time period was actually kind of short. It was only 6 months.
Wow. Now it's
By-
close to a year.
Yeah, we mailed it in on April. I got a notification, actually July 1st, Canada Day, that it goes to Canada first, and they do my approval first. And then after my approval, then they send it to Manila, and then they do hers. So on July 1st, they sent it to Manila. So between July 1st and I believe it was middle of November that she got it, and it was delivered to her home.
So now she's in Canada. How was the transition for her going from a country of 80 plus degrees and 80% humidity to ice cold?
That was something. When she came to Canada in 2013, it was in January, and there was probably 4 feet of snow. It was actually a strong snow year that year. We had an exorbitant amount of snow. It was covering my basement windows on my house. And yeah, it was, she had culture shock. There was culture shock.
Big
culture shock.
The reverse, everybody
Yep.
thinks it's culture shock for you coming here.
Yeah.
But if you take your bride back to your home country,
Yeah.
especially Canada, which has extreme weather compared to
Oh
here,
yeah,
big
yeah,
culture shock.
yeah. But she took it well. I mean, she didn't complain about the cold. She actually loved the snow. Whether she loves it now,
Well, she's been there a while.
She's been there a while, so I mean, it kind of wears on you, And she, I give her credit. She actually helps me shovel the snow if there's snow to do, and she's right in there, and she's a good Filipina to have. She's very helpful.
Very good wife.
Yep.
A very good wife.
Yep.
What was her hardest adjustment? Working wise, getting a job, or just people?
I think it would be getting a job, because her education here was very limited, and there was a lady that I knew because I worked with her father, and she was a manager of a grocery store, and they just needed someone just to tidy the shelves and stuff, and that's where it started. So I went and I talked to Amber and see if Jonah Lynn could get a job, and they hired her, and she's still doing that job to today.
She's kept that
She
one
kept that job
for that whole time.
Yeah, and as she kind of, I think it was 7 months later, she started meeting some Filipinos. So, she started making some friends and, acquaintances and stuff. And back in Regina, there's a men's Filipino choir. And her best friend, husband, was in the choir. And we actually had gone and we had met the people in the choir. Well, one of these choir members was a sous chef and also worked where I worked part-time. And then they were looking for dishwashers. So they hired Jonah Lynn to start out as a dishwasher, and that's where she started back in 2013 in the fall, and she's been there ever since. So she's got 2 jobs.
2 jobs.
2 jobs.
Hard work.
All Filipinos in Canada got 2 jobs.
My God. Is she looking forward to coming back to the Philippines?
I think yes. Canada isn't the same as it was back, when she first came. She's realizing the expenses that are now in Canada are a lot different. Food prices, gas prices, the expenses are going up. Just the affordability in Canada it's not the same as it used to be.
Not used to be.
No.
The cost of living to live in a Western country now is extreme.
It is extreme.
And people think poverty's no good, but overinflation is worse. Because you work hard and you're working hard and you're spinning your wheels and making no progress.
Yeah. No, and Jonah Lynn didn't know, like when you work hard, the tax system. And she's like, well, why do we got to pay tax? I said, well, that's just it's just the way it is, right? And it's like you work hard for your money, and it just doesn't seem to sometimes get you through to what you need.
Yes.
Right.
And with 2 jobs, you were working a good job. And
I was
she had
working 2 jobs as well. Yeah.
2 jobs as well. It's a tough. It's a tough life in the West. Yeah. Especially now, after COVID, it is really extreme.
It's gotten very extreme since COVID.
Yes. Now, a lot of guys say when you take your girl back to your home country and they start meeting other Filipinas, they start to brainwash them into the Western woman style of divorce. You can get this from the guy. You can get a better husband than that. Yeah. Did you get any inclination
I
of that?
actually didn't have any of that. I guess I was fortunate. My old friend Bob, he first came to the Philippines, it had to have been at least 20 years ago. And he had his experiences here in Cebu. And the biggest thing that he told me is when you're speaking with a Filipina and you're getting to know them, the minute they ask you for any money, drop them.
Drop.
And I mean, that sounds harsh, but I followed his advice, and I found someone that wanted me for me and not my bank book.
Yeah. I think that's a fine balance to find somebody. They need money. Their position
Absolutely.
needs money. But they're used to living that style. They're used to living that way where us in the West, we want them to eat a steak. We don't want them to eat dried fish. Mm-hmm. But Janet, when we go out and there's dried fish on the menu, she's going to order it.
She's going to order it.
So, it's what they like. Yeah. It's the lifestyle they chose. Yeah. Now, the 2 of you have come back here a total of how many times now?
I think this is trip number 8. I think it was 2014, 2016, we came twice, 2018, and we were here till February 19th of 2020, just before the world went crazy.
Before the world of COVID hit. And
Yeah.
now this is your first time back since COVID?
This is 4 years later.
4 years later. How have you found the expense of traveling pre-COVID to now from Canada to here?
Flights are way more. Our flights in 2020, just for the two of us, was about $1,250 each. Now the flights, we paid $1,900 each.
And we're talking Canadian money.
In
right?
Canadian dollars, yes. Yeah.
So the costs have gone up. So traveling 2 or 3 times a year to the Philippines might not be economical anymore.
No. I'm 58 now. I can retire in 2 years. So I'm kind of looking this as a pre-planning to what retirement might come in the future.
So every time you come here, it's more planning, more seeing how it is.
Yep. We've helped the family out. Back when I was at my job at Signal Industries for 32 years till 2018, we actually bought the land that the family owned back. The grandfather had sold the land, and he had made a deal with this teacher to sell the land back to the family first. So we did that. We bought the land back, so they have their land back. And then we also built a 3-bedroom house for them in the mountains.
Well, that's great. Now, where is this? What island?
This is on Negros Oriental. Himilalod is the town, and it's about an hour motorbike ride up to Lacaune in the hills.
In the hills.
And we built the house up there.
So you're above Dumaguete in the mountains.
Yes, we're north of Dumaguete, yeah.
North of Dumaguete,
Yeah.
away from the coast.
Well, it would be away from the coast, yeah, about an hour away.
About an hour away. Have you traveled there? Do you like Dumaguete? Do you
Yes,
like
I
that
have.
area?
Yeah. We go there at least every trip. Last trip, I'm sure we spent 2 weeks up in the mountains just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Just relaxing. That's what it's for. Enjoying life.
So what if you close your eyes and had the perfect ending to your life? Would it be living here in the Philippines, or would it be back in Canada making a go out of it?
I think I could see it maybe being 50-50 for a while. Coming here when the snow starts to fly, come here for, 2-3 months. Jonah Lynn now has progressed in her job in Canada. Like, she started out as the dishwasher. Now she's actually up to a cook 3, which is right under a chef de partie.
No?
So she's done quite well, and she absolutely loves her job.
Yeah, she mentioned she likes her job, but I get the feeling she likes the Philippines.
She does. And if she wants to continue with her job, I got no problem with that. I mean, I could be gone and she'll still need a life. And I mean, she makes enough money now that she'll be able to have a good life.
And now, just to touch on your age gap, you guys have a 20-year age difference, which is pretty acceptable. That's about
it's
right.
decent, yeah.
Yeah, for people. And has that been accepted in Canada?
20 years has been. I thought I would see some strange looks, and when you're walking through a mall, and here's this older guy with this younger Filipina, and it was like, but I didn't get that. Actually, I didn't. So
you're finding more and more people are starting to mind their own business. Like,
I think
that's your
so.
life, and this is my life, and I think that's the one positive to this movement, that stuff that used to happen in the back alley now is happening on Main Street.
Yep.
But people, by doing that, they're starting to accept everybody's lifestyle, so they don't really care if you're 60 with a young girl.
No.
Everybody's trying to live their own life. As much as you might dislike their life, you just got to let people live their life.
That's right. I mean, my friend Jim, him and his wife, there's about a 40-year gap, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. No.
And now just before I let you go here, Cinologue's happening.
Oh.
It's just at the end. How many Cinologues have you been to?
I've been to 3 Cinologues.
And what do you think of Cinologues?
Cinologue is a festival for Santo Niño, and this is where Cebu shows their true colors. I mean, it's almost like a citywide event. Anywhere you go in the city, whether it's a hotel, coffee shops, you know, up here in Ayala, it's music, drums, party.
Yes.
And it's just quite a festival.
Quite and noisy.
Well, it's noisy,
Crowded.
but that's what they like.
It's all part of it.
It's part of it.
I relate it to Mardi Gras in Orleans, except
There's
with
a
a
good-
religious
yep,
faction to
yep,
it, you know,
yep.
and it's people have paint on their face and they're wearing headdress and
Yep.
different costumes, and it's pretty amazing. Is there anything you want to share with the audience about picking a wife or anything of your travels back and forth?
If I would say, if you want to meet someone online, that's okay, but I don't think I would put too much expectations on it, because until you actually meet and see that person face to face, they might not always be the same on camera as they are in real life.
Yes.
You know, there could be a bit of a difference. And the other thing would be the sending of money. If the Filipina asks you for money, I would just,
Especially in the early
yeah,
beginnings.
yeah. If you've only been talking online maybe a couple months, you know, and stretch it out, like, see. And I mean, if they do, even after 2-3 months, start asking you for money, just say, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out, and I'll look for someone somewhere else.
Okay, some good advice there,
Yeah.
guys, from a man who has made it work.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Rich, for being on the channel.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Mike.